like to welcome you all to the Development Review Board for the City of Montpelier on August 19th. We are going to have Mike Miller review the remote meeting procedures, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so for those, there we go. For those viewing this meeting via ORCA, you can participate in tonight's meeting via the Zoom platform through either the video or telephone access options. To join the full video options, type this link that is right here in green into your browser. And alternatively, you can call this phone number and when prompted, put in the meeting ID, which is the highlighted. Either way, I will get a notice and I will let you into the meeting. If there are any problems accessing the meeting, please email me at mmiller@montpelier-vt.org, and I'll be monitoring my email throughout the meeting. For those attending via Zoom, turning your video on is optional. For everyone else attending, please keep your microphone on mute, and when you're not speaking, to reduce background noise. If you're on the phone, use *6 to mute or unmute. The Zoom chat function should only be used for troubleshooting or logistics questions. If you have a question or comment about an item on the agenda, please raise your hand either physically or by using the raise hand button on your toolbar. For those speaking on the phone, you can press *9 to do so, or state your name if you're unmuted and wait until the chair has recognized you. Once the chair has recognized someone to participate, please make sure to provide your full name and address for the record. Continuing the meeting if necessary. In the event the public is unable to access this meeting, it will be continued to a time and place certain. And I will now hand this back to the chair.
Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda? I get a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the agenda. Seconded.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We have 3 applications tonight. All look like they're very thorough, which is great. Looks like we have some interested people, which is also awesome. I would ask that remember that keeping your comments concise and civility is a big thing here. So just everybody keeping the tone healthy is nice. The other thing is, if you're going to speak, please come up to the podium. That way it can go onto the recording and everybody can hear you and we don't kind of listen in. It also gives us a way to organize that. Our first applicant tonight is Isaac Lawrence. You want to come up to the table? Yeah, that's great. All right. I'm sorry. Oh, introduction board members. I always know who you are. This is our vice chair.
I'm Rob Goodwin, vice chair.
Sharon Allen, chair.
Mike Miller, staff.
Catherine Burgess, board member.
Joe Kiernan, board member.
Alex. We can't hear you. You're muted still.
Alex Halas, board member.
Great, thank you. Out down there, okay. Mike, do you want to give us just a very short summary paragraph of what this project is, or would you like me to do that?
I will let anyone who has some idea. I'm covering for Meredith today for anyone
Right,
who doesn't know. So I don't have any background on any of these projects. So
okay, so my understanding of this application is that is the final review of a 2-parcel subdivision located at 5585 Elm Street. They came before us, I understand, in December of 23 for sketch plan approval. And I guess, Mike, are you able to pull things up on the screen? Don't want to throw you right into the fire here, but maybe you could just, Isaac, you could just give us a brief description of what the application is? Sure. And then we can kind of go through it.
So the application is for a 2-lot subdivision, so dividing one existing lot into 2. It's currently the full lot is 2.18 acres, I think, is what the survey said. It originally, we've been told 2.3, but and we would divide more or less down the middle in a line essentially perpendicular to 585, or sorry, to Elm Street. One lot has all the existing structures from the property on it, and they would stay there. There's a 3-unit apartment building, which is a renovated old farmhouse. There is a large barn and there is a garage. And then the other lot would, for the time being, be undeveloped. The first lot, the one with all the structures on it, what we've called Lot 1 in your materials, would be approximately 1.28 acres. Lot 2, the undeveloped lot, would be 0.88 acres. And our plan, such as it is to eventually develop a single unit, single family home that we would live in, but that's not part of this application. It's just to say our sort of,
Here for subdivision approval.
yeah, we're just here for subdivision approval at this time.
Okay.
And we have drawn the lines in such a way as to create lot 2 with an area where we could build easily, be out of the floodplain, obviously very important, be out of the river corridor, be able to access city water and sewer and electricity easily. And we drew the dividing line so as to not create any non-conformities. So I believe there is a compliant setback on all sides from all the existing structures on the proposed lot 1. And there's plenty of buildable space out of the floodplain in the river corridor on lot 2 that would avoid any relevant setbacks. I think that's it.
Okay, that's good. So, looking at the maps that you've got here, and I don't know, other people have seen this or they want to see it. So it looks like there is sort of a division where to the right of the center line there is that where basically the river hazard and the river corridor is kind of behind that line?
The dark line.
This where, I don't know if you can see this, but so you're proposing a lot division there. but
Yeah.
This is where the river corridor is
Yes,
and the flood area.
that's correct.
Okay.
And we did include, I don't know if it's in your packet or not, but the well, this is definitely in your packet. I forget if it's called the plat or the site plan, but on one of those you can see where the 100-year flood line is.
Mike, do you have a copy of the plat handy that you can share?
Working on it.
Yeah, I think I
Just found it.
found it. Let's see.
I got it on my screen, but I feel like it's helpful for
Yeah,
the video.
Yes.
there we go.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so I believe the dark line, what does that say? That's the VA and our river corridor. And then the lighter line next to it, mostly parallel, is the line that FEMA approved as part of our letter of map amendment. So
Right.
we basically moved where FEMA said the line was because it's sort of very much did not match the topography previously.
Okay.
So we applied for and were granted a letter of map amendment. And that's the line that we asked for and were granted. Which more or less matches, but is slightly less restrictive than the river corridor.
Great.
Yeah.
Curious how accurate those lines were with the flood that we've had over the last couple of years, particularly the one 2 years ago.
Yeah, remarkably, the dam at Wrightsville really did its job. And so this far up, we saw basically no flooding at all. Like we didn't even reach the 100-year flood line. And I think, where they saw a lot of flooding on Elm Street, I think it was mostly back up from the main stem of the Winooski as opposed to the North Branch, because a great deal of water accumulated behind the dam at Wrightsville and did not flow down. It's a little scary when for a brief moment we thought maybe the dam was failing, but no, it was functioning as it was supposed to.
Great. Other questions? before we start kind of going through this? I mean, we are basically here to do a final plan review and approval of the determination on the request for subdivision. One of the big issues here is that when you do the subdivision, that you are left with a developable lot. And that seems to be accurate, that there is enough room to develop the other parcel. So I feel like that's taken care of. So, do other people have questions on this application?
Oh. Do you have a chance to review the staff report from Meredith?
Yes, yes. Was there anything that stood out to you all?
No, I was just curious just to make sure that you were a little saw before we start going through it.
Yes.
So you're familiar with what she had commented on. So,
Yes.
back to you.
Okay, so I feel like we dealt with the first portion of this. Dimensional standards and accessory structures and uses. Basically what we're doing here is have to make sure that they are not in the water setback, that they're not in the floodplain, that they're not in too close to the existing structures, too close to the front line, too close to the sideline, and basically just a subdivision of that. So I think that it meets all of those categories. I do see that the neighbors have a concern or would like to keep it to one parcel. I don't think we're right at that portion of the applicant yet. We'll get there. So it seems pretty set. We looked at the parking considerations, that's fine. Both parcels have access to Elm Street. And then at the future point, when you go to develop that, you'll have to answer all the questions about driveway cuts and number of units and landscaping and that kind of thing. There is, I know that we've looked at a couple of these other subdivisions where it goes from one lot to two lots. And we have the ability to step in with landscaping here. And I know at least on the one on Gallison Hill, we opted to just leave it to the neighbors to work that out instead of mandating some kind of landscaping at this point. That they would, sell the lot or build the lot or whatever and work it out as it had to go at that time, that was an appropriate place for us to necessarily step in. So the proposal does comply with 3503. Suitability of the land. I guess I would maybe be interested in this point of hearing from, are the neighbors here? The neighbors are here, great. Do you want to just maybe come up and talk a little bit about what your concerns are? And if you could identify yourself, that would be great.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. My name is Jill Weeks and I'm the immediate neighbor to this 585. I'm at 565 Elm. And I just wanted to give my enthusiastic support for this very well done application. I know when we had to file for a variance, the immediate neighbor that was most directly affected actually held the most weight in us getting the approval. So I just wanted to let you know that we do support this. I know they're working very hard and that and it is a lot of paperwork. Our property was subdivided off of this farm. So there is precedent from both our property and as you go sort of down Elm Street, we're all the same ticky-tacky houses that were parceled off of this in the 60s. So the floodwaters, I wanted to just add that the 100-year flood line was very accurate. We bought our house during the flood in July.
Wow.
And so it was up to the line on that property. So I would say that is very accurate, that it does stay down below what we call the berm and the plants absorb that really well. Our only concern, which is just in line with everything Isaac and Kelly have told us, which is to build their home there. And we would love to just have one home there and not another apartment building. Because we did read that it could be up to 4, but I know that is not their intention at all. So just a vote of support and want to That's really all. Thank you.
Thank you. The density, numbers in that area allow for substantially more than one. And, I don't feel like that, is something that we should be deciding at all tonight. That we're doing the subdivision part of it, when your neighbor comes and says, I actually really want to build a, 4-unit triplex or whatever, or a duplex or something, that's the point when you're gonna have to come and say,
I did ask Nick in the planning.
yeah,
He said that if I had any concerns, the time to bring it up.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think it's, it sounds like it's all gonna work out fine, but, great. Like I said, I just don't think it's appropriate for us to condition the, subdivision permit, with number of units that are different than the standards right now.
See, Alex has her hand raised too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's hard to see up there, but it's much clearer.
Alex,
on
did you have
my
a question?
screen.
I do. Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yep.
Because got it, you're looking at the screen. I wanted to come back to the thing about the single family unit because it's not, I just want to be clear that it's not in our mandate here to say what kind of development can happen on that parcel, right?
Right.
It's up to zoning. So it could be single family, it could be a duplex, it could be a single family with an accessory dwelling unit. And I just don't want any, I mean, good faith all around, but I just want us to be very clear about what we're allowed to say about, along with our approval.
That sounds right, Alex.
Okay.
I can just add to that you can restrict the amount of development during a subdivision process if there is a reason justified within the application itself. So if there was, for some reason, the property couldn't support more, or it would be dangerous because of traffic that would be coming onto a bad intersection, or if there was some other reason to go through and say, we'll allow the subdivision, but it can't have more than a certain amount because of one of the things in the subdivision regulations that says as a condition in order to protect and meet that requirement. But generally, the development of the parcel is left to that second step when they come in to develop the parcel.
Catherine?
And also just a point on the second step too, beyond that being a second step, then there'd also be the river hazard area compliance. So, right now we're talking about number of units, just thinking about the number of units for the, as is typical for this category of, type of site, but that's would be another area of consideration at a later point in time.
We did.
Yes, I would just add that this is what the DRB has to do, but there are mechanisms outside the DRB as you two as neighbors as to how you want to specify exactly what can and cannot happen with that property if you're in agreement. But that is, as I said, outside of the DRB. If you're really set on this as a thing, then you could explore other options.
Okay. Covered landscaping. So there were a couple of things that needed to be on the final subdivision, monuments and markers on the lot. Utility, does there need to be shown on the, is that something that needs to be on the subdivision plat itself? No.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
as I recall during sketch plan, we were, requiring that just you to make sure that any utilities that need to be run to the site, could just come straight from the public right away, and you wouldn't need to maybe run across the existing parcel, so that therefore an easement would need to be created in order for you to, get your sewer or your power or whatnot to your parcel. So if they're all coming from the public right away, then there's nothing that's really needed at the time of subdivision.
Okay.
But if that's not the case, then you would need to show those.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't just be coming from
Right.
street.
Right.
Okay. That leaves the landscaping thing, which I think, is everybody pretty much in agreement with that we can leave the landscaping to the next step and between the neighbors?
Yeah, I think leaving landscaping to the point of, getting a permit for building or whatever to
Yeah.
get built on the parcel makes sense. Yes.
Fine. Um,
Are you all right, Mike? Is it?
I'm leaving.
Right? Big.
really?
Go, Mike, go.
The rain stopped briefly. It just crawled up the spout.
Right. That's a good one.
Yeah, that was the. It's
They get him?
spider.
This is like,
Nope, you just over there,
a spider in here.
this is not so itsy bitsy, huh?
corner right there, where it disappeared to.
Probably going into the corner.
Yeah, I think he's probably gone for the evening.
Get away.
Not only is he fast, he's tough.
Not that I'll be looking over my shoulder much. Okay, so, monuments and markers ought to be shown on the final plat. It's. Do other board members have other questions about this application? I mean, we can go through each thing that Elm Street neighborhood is described as a linear residential neighborhood extending along Elm Street. How much of the suitable frontage has been developed? Proposed development may feature infill housing, particularly where there's adequate depth to accommodate development behind the existing parcels, or in this case, beside existing parcels. I mean, I think that it's a 9,000 residential neighborhood, which is appropriate for infill. That's good. So there was some information did you already do something with the river hazard?
I think I have to
Area?
did I have to do a river hazard area application, maybe?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I. probably-
I don't think there was much to show except that river hazard area was present on the lot,
Yeah,
which it is.
yep,
Yeah, so generally the requirement for river hazard and flood hazard, as it goes to subdivisions, is that there has to be a buildable area.
Right.
So we have to have an area that's able to be built. If it's in the floodway or if it's in the river corridor, it can't be built, so that there has to be some portion that's out of that, which there is in this case. And then secondarily, there has to be a way of accessing it. So if it happens to be that the floodway and the river corridor is in the front of the property and the developable pieces behind it, you'd have to show some access to it. In this case, it's on the right, it's on the correct side. So adjacent to the road, so it's easy to access. But those are what's required in the river hazard and flood hazard. So that way we don't end up with a property that can't be developed in the future.
right.
Right.
Makes perfect sense. The other part of our package was various OKs from Montpelier Department, the Montpelier PD had no problem with it. Public Works was okay with it. Not sure who else they got.
Conservation Commission.
Yep. Other questions from the board?
What? So did you get a chance to review the Conservation Commission recommendations?
Yeah, there was established a conservation easement on subdivided parcel adjacent to easement, to riverfront and reduce runoff and avoid impervious surfaces. The latter, I think, certainly we will do, and at the moment, there's nothing to be done in that regard because it's all pervious, which is great. With regard to a conservation easement, I mean, I think that's certainly something that we could look at. I don't, just timing wise, I would certainly prefer that this approval not be contingent on that. And I don't, from my reading, don't feel that the regulations would support such a contingency, but it wouldn't affect, I mean, it's basically undevelopable anyway.
Right.
And for that reason, I'm not totally sure if it would be
Necessary.
sort of necessary, but those are my thoughts. I mean, I do, certainly we support not building in the river corridor or in the floodplain for any reasons.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, my viewpoint on the Conservation Commission's regulations when it comes to the easement is that, seems like the zoning regulations already pretty much prohibit the development of that. And that although, well,
By the time,
outside the regulations, it's a great idea. I don't know that like we as a board through this process have the ability to require such a thing as a condition of the permit.
yeah, I wouldn't want to. Even if we did.
Would there be, this is a, Mike, this is the kind of question we sometimes ask Meredith, whether there's any sort of precedent within a decision to state support for the concept of an easement as as very compatible with the zoning requirements for lack of development on that part of the site.
So, I mean, it would be possible to put a condition on the development, but it would not be appropriate to request or require an easement.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't stating the latter.
Okay.
I'm wondering whether there is a, I think you've stated that it's something that you're, you see that it would be, in line with what you're looking to do.
Sure.
You see the purpose, the ecological value.
Mhm.
It's compatible with the regs and that the regs are not supportive of developing that portion of the site anyway. Whether there's a way to state support for this as a concept that, is aligned with, what the regs state about the use of that part of the site.
I mean, I think it's always good to be supportive, but I feel like that's sort of like outside of us a little bit, you know what I mean? To specify that we support and, ecological respect for this area that, you know what I mean? I feel like that's not quite what we're doing. I also feel like the back of that land is really undevelopable, given where it is in the river hazard area, the river corridor, the 100-year flood line. I mean, he's gonna have a hard time putting a tent up there, So
Couldn't get a building from any, even if you wanted.
that's what I mean, like you just couldn't even,
Yeah, so I mean, that's like, there's a coordination question, right?
Right.
It's interesting that there's a proposal for an easement, which, that's additional kind of bureaucracy around
Right.
something which practically would happen anyway,
right,
given that it's undevelopable, but
yeah.
but it's still being requested, so, yeah.
Might have more restrictions, like.
Yeah.
things like that.
Joe, can you speak into your?
Oh, sorry, I was just saying that I think a conservation easement is probably gonna be more restrictive than what we have. As far as like a building
Right.
goes, like they may also restrict mowing and what plant types
Yeah,
and things
okay.
like that, so.
Sometimes, right?
So yeah, and I also don't think it's within our purview right now,
Yeah.
so.
I guess the other question that comes to mind here is that like, it's like we think of permitting the subdivision for a single family home, like it seems like inevitably what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a single family home that is outside the river corridor, outside of this area. But, we think 10, 15 years down the road, it's like, are we not listening to the Conservation Commission because somehow there's a way to now put 4 units, inside the river corridor near the river, versus like family home, as it is being proposed. I think it's highly unlikely, but I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, towards, envisioning, like what maybe could happen and like what would be looking to sort of, clarify in a permit condition at this juncture of subdivision. I don't know. Think about it. I think it still amounts to us doing nothing and that the regulations speak to that not happening. But I don't know. Just want to
Yeah.
add that to the discussion.
Anybody else with any other thing? No? Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve a 2-parcel subdivision of 585 Elm Street as presented in application Z-2024-0061 and supporting and supplemental materials subject to the following conditions of approval. 1, Within 180 days of this decision, applicant shall record the final survey plat in the Montpelier Land Records Office per the procedures detailed in section 4405 of the zoning regulations, including the locations of all applicable survey rods and markers.
Second that, Joe. Thank you.
All right, let's do a roll call on it here. Rob,
Yes, for Rob?
Joe,
Yes.
Catherine?
I've got a question back and I'm sorry, I
Oh, okay.
didn't jump in earlier.
Okay, sure.
I think we heard a statement of support and intentionality around avoiding impervious surfaces, which is again, I think future development
Yeah,
review process would lead to adherence to that as well, but just, I wanted to hear, your opinion, Sharon, or others on the board of whether there would be any further conditions around that on here that are appropriate. at this time.
I think that really comes with when they propose development on there. I mean, that's definitely a portion of what is part of that permit, that when you go to build a house or a triplex or whatever you're gonna build, there's definitely a,
Yeah, no, we all are aware of
Yeah.
that. I'm more thinking back to Rob's point
No,
of how,
I think it's a valid point. Yeah, I mean, obviously moving back this meeting to discussion on the motion.
Yeah,
apologize, I should have.
No,
no, that's quite all right, quite all right.
I think, I don't know, I'd love to discuss like with everyone's here about, the idea of a condition on not putting impervious within the river corridor. I'm just throwing that out there for us to talk about something concrete. Because
Concrete.
I think that, sure.
That's good.
Because I think that's very relevant. I do. I think it's different than development. I think that's
Thoughts? I don't,
I can't remember, is parking permitted in the river corridor? Or is it allowable?
Yes,
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it is.
yeah.
Actually, it's one of the few things that's allowable if you buy back FEMA housing, right? You can't develop it anymore, but you can use it for parking.
I guess we have to point to like what section of our regulations like
Right.
governs our authority
Yeah.
on being able to, do anything here. So I'm into looking into it.
where?
Meredith provide a citation here.
Not on the impervious surfaces, I do not believe. So,
Conservation Commission.
From the other cases before us tonight, there are regulations about percentage of lots that are permitted to be impervious.
right, but those are different applications and they're at different stages than this is.
Right, but that's only germane to the fact that this question is really about the second part of the process, not about the subdivision.
And I'll also note too, just even when landscaping was raised earlier in the context of that recent precedent, that was really around screening.
Yeah.
Screening and kind of neighborhood interface
Yeah.
versus flood preparedness
Right.
question, so.
And the impervious cover requirements can change over time, which is usually why you don't condition it on something that's in the zoning itself, because then you'll end up with
Conflict.
all the other properties. You're supposed to treat like properties similarly. So if everybody on the street all has a 60% requirement, except this property that has a 50% requirement or an 80% requirement because it was set as a condition of the approval, it should just be treated like all the other properties on the street for the amount of impervious cover. And that's why usually we would handle that step, the amount of impervious in the next step when we get to develop.
I haven't seen the spider back there. I've looked a couple of times. I just want you to know.
And yeah, Rob, I admit you're probably already on this, but the staff report cites 3509 as potential area.
Almost there.
So there's, the city's water setback and riparian buffer regulations in 3005. And the stormwater provisions of 3009 also are in effect. So that's another layer of protection. I guess I still just feel like that question should be with the next application. You know, that they can't do anything on it until, until they come back, you know. I mean, I guess they could put up a parking lot, but
Yeah, so it's like 3509A1 is what like basically says it's required that Conservation Commission comment
Yeah.
on an subdivision that's got lands within the river corridor.
so did you want to modify the motion?
Well. So Catherine, do you have 3509 up or you're?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 3509 on the staff report. I need
Okay.
to go on the phone for the actual.
Well. I guess what's here is that like, so 3509A2, I can read it.
Right.
You know, it's like, so. A1 basically says it goes to the Conservation Commission for the review.
Yeah.
Then A2 basically says, well, I'll just read it. Where the proposed development shall disturb or otherwise impact a natural resource area on the Montpelier Natural Resource Inventory map, applicant shall submit a professionally prepared natural resource assessment. The assessment shall identify potential impacts of the proposed development on the natural resource areas within the adjacent within or adjacent to the proposed site, mitigating methods for each. Well, I mean, I guess I would say that the river corridor basically is a natural resource. And so I would take this as that like, you know, if there were to be proposed development, which there is not now,
Yeah.
based on the subdivision within the river corridor, they would need to follow that provision.
Wouldn't that come into play when they came in for their next permit? Is that the Conservation Commission is going to be involved there as well?
No, I mean, that totally makes sense to me. I think this just recall, and for everyone here, this is one of our first applications that has dealt with this in some time. And you also just think, you know, it's the public record when people are
Right.
reviewing these decisions. There's no, you know, I think, what did we did sort of flood disclosure light around something, around a couple applications recently, where it was just making sure all that information was in the public domain with the decision.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking if there's something similar that we could do here that acknowledges that, like, the board recognizes that at further points in the process, if, you know, when a development decision is made, you know, the recommendations from the Conservation Commission are, you know, are important, are aligned
No,
with what's going on here.
I think it's important. I think reading this, it's like, I think our conditions aren't us inventing new things. Our conditions are drawing attention to like
Yeah, what's
important parts of the regulations to make
That
sure that
already
they're followed going through.
Yeah.
And I guess I would be okay with saying that, you know,
Hey.
development within the river corridor, you know, we point to this provision.
I guess I feel like they're going to have to deal with this provision.
Well, I
And
think-
so it's me, I feel like you're saying, so make sure when you review this application, when the next step comes in, that you follow the regulations. I mean, because they're there for the next step, you know?
No, I think they are. I think that there is, but I think what we're removing is the discretion. You know, it's like, I read this clearly as like, the river corridor is a natural resource.
Right.
And that any development, you know, like near that requires assessment. Well, it doesn't say in this provision that the river corridor is a natural, you know, resource, even though in the lens of, I think of this application, we are, maybe all agreeing, viewing it as that. So I think that this, but clear, I don't know, to me, it just clarifies that like we're spelling out the process on this specific parcel as to like how, what other provisions
So
we're
would you,
relying upon to, you know, control further development to make sure it does what we're all anticipating.
Yeah,
so how would you phrase that? Like that future development of that subdivision should pay particular attention to natural resources? Or, I mean,
I
where,
think I would reference, 3509A2.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah. Mike.
Where's this property?
Uh,
On Elm
It's on
Street?
Elm Street here. So I'm on Elm Street. I passed
So the-
it past the meadow.
It's two lots from the pool. It's the second lot south of the pool.
All right,
So
so this looks like the parcel, and
it's, so you can't really see, it's not easy to see, but one of the boundaries is that stream.
this stream here.
I think so.
Just looking at it on, so looking at the right section there, yeah.
So
so it's
there.
that lot, that
Yeah.
little
That larger lot to the south of the stream, yeah.
below the
Oh,
street.
this
That-
one
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and the reason why I'm pointing this one out, and I can zoom in now that I know. It'll let me. Oh, that's up and down. So the requirement is that it impacts natural resource areas identified on the Montpelier Natural Resource Inventory map. This is the Montpelier Natural Resource Inventory map. So we are looking at only the water setback. We aren't looking at the wetlands. We aren't, or there are no wetlands. We aren't looking at any river corridors. We
Right.
aren't looking at floodplains.
Sure.
So the only thing we're looking at is any impacts that this subdivision would have, or the development of these parcels would have on the water setback, which is probably 25 feet.
Mhm.
So just so we're all aware, and I think Meredith pointed that out in her report, that there was there's the stream, but that's the extent of the natural resource inventories that we are trying to determine whether they
Right.
would be impacted by the subdivision. So
That makes sense. It's good.
there's a lot less. Had it been on the other side, you can see on the other side,
There'd
we've
be all
got
kinds of things going on.
We've got all sorts of things. We've got wetlands, we've got vernal pools on the circle. We've got some type of potential rare habitats on the other side of the river. I don't have the legend in front of me because I'm just zoomed in on a PDF map. So that so we kind of keep our frame of conversation. Really, it's just down to that water setback area that is technically within that
Right.
provision of the
Sure.
regulations.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
And I think Alex had her hand raised.
Alex?
I do. I just wanted to say that I agree with those who are suggesting that this really is for the next stage, for the development of the parcel stage. And I'm not comfortable with putting more layers on an approval that seems to me to be pretty straightforward. Given the fact that all the things we're talking about will come into play when actual development happens, when there's an application for actual development.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I appreciate you humoring the conversation. I think it's important that we have the discussion, but
Always.
ultimately, I think the motion as stated, I'm okay with. Catherine, maybe you.
And do we have more discussion we'd like to have?
Yeah, I should have come more prepared on wording here too. And I generally I agree with this all in
Right.
overall purpose. I think for me, the issue is if the headline is, proceed, with is it, anyway, I'm just trying to think about whether, I know, I recognize if I don't have a condition that's worded appropriately that I can pitch, we don't really have anything. So.
All right. Shall I call the vote?
Yep.
Rob?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Catherine?
Let me look at this for a little bit more. I'll go last. I know
Okay.
where everybody else is
Alex?
going.
Yes.
I also vote yes.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and vote yes. I think, the regs are strong for what happens at the next point in the process.
They
And
are.
I agree that this is our, we have our role in the process and then there's a
There's a bunch of
robust
other
further
people who have
process.
their handprints on this. Okay, that has unanimously passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, well,
Good conversation, totally good.
No. You're creating like set of plans.
Okay, that stack of papers, go away.
Something in that.
All right. So next up, we have the Vermont College of Fine Arts. I'm sorry, Joe, are we,
Oh, no, yeah, we'll decide on,
Wait.
yeah.
is this something we
No,
should
no,
all?
we're fine, yeah.
Okay. Vermont College of Fine Arts. Okay. So, if you would like to give us a brief description of what your application is looking for, this is sketch plan review of a 2-parcel subdivision at 36 College Street involving the College Hall and the College Green, I believe.
So basically, BCFA plans to sell College Hall to Greenway. So this would be the 6th building that they plan to purchase. It very much fits into their sort of long-term plans with the startup of their new institute and likely college programming in the next year or two. I would say that the opportunity came along a little sooner than they were anticipating, even though it really does fit into their overall vision. And so our two organizations had conversations about how we could make this work. And so the creative solution that we came up with was the idea to subdivide the parcel into 2 pieces. So that the green, essentially the soccer field area of the green.
In the walkways.
Some of the
them.
walkways, the main walkway that cuts it in half, it's sort of the portion from there all the way to East State Street. So
Yep.
really the soccer field area would be one parcel. That part of the green is the area that the condo association already has a recreation easement on. And so this subdivision allows that piece of the property to continue to be used as it is right now and has been for years and years as a sort of public park, if you will. The Onion River Soccer Club uses it as one of their soccer fields in springtime. The neighbors and, really all of the community uses it as a public park. So that would be one parcel. And then the other parcel would be the building that College Hall sits on. And so that still leaves quite a bit of a front yard where the fountain is. Would all remain sort
With
of
College
the
Hall.
College Hall parcel. And what it does is it gives us a vehicle to create a financing structure that works, because BCFA would do seller financing on the green, and then the other section, the Greenway could go get traditional financing for, and then have the current tenants continue with the uses that are in the building. BCFA plans to lease space back in the building. We're keeping our administrative headquarters here. And so it's sort of an elegant solution on multiple levels for both organizations.
One thing, I just happened to look at the drawings here. There's something in this one. This one. It says 6 parking spaces over on the green itself. Isn't that what this says?
Can I take a look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just a little confused about that. I was like, huh.
So, show me.
Right there.
Oh, goodness, no.
I don't know what that is.
Legend.
Maybe it's
Parcel B. They may just be referring to
the number allotted to
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it says there's 6 parking spaces down here. I think there are
Oh,
another 6
okay.
over
All
on
right.
that side. I don't know why the.
Okay. Okay. I was
We're not planning, no one is planning to put parking spaces in the middle of
I
the.
didn't think so, but I was like, well, I should check. Okay. And this is just a sketch plan review.
Just the question is, so like the green being a public park. So, but that will still be owned by the college with an easement, or is the intent to convey it to the city, or?
That we would be selling it to Greenway.
Yeah.
So, but with seller financing.
Yeah.
And it would continue to be operated, used in the way that it is right now. Longer term, perhaps, maybe. I mean, I can't speak for Greenway in
Right.
terms of longer term
I thought
things.
you
It was something that we thought about, and maybe if we had had more time, we would have gone the road of, seeing if one of the conservation organizations was interested in it, but that takes time.
Sure.
Yeah.
We did not have it.
So let me just clarify there that Greenway is going to purchase the College Hall piece, right?
The whole thing.
Oh, the
It's
whole
all-
thing.
Yep, the
Okay.
green and the building.
Okay.
It is something we envision happening all together with Greenway.
Okay. That makes more sense to me. There's always that road subdivision complies with 3001 as no new uses are proposed and existing uses are allowed. And the future development of the proposed vacant parcel is only an issue to the extent that it's necessary to determine that you can develop it in some way. And it already has a recreational easement on it, you said? Great. I don't think that we would need, this is my feeling, only, and I'd like to hear other board members, that we're not going to need for this final thing, any additional traffic information. I mean, it seems like it's all staying existing use. It's all exactly the same. They're just changing the names basically. So I wouldn't want to ask them to come up with traffic information for the final.
You would want traffic information?
No.
Okay.
No, no, because nothing's changing. I mean, it's one of the things here that we're supposed to look at when we're doing this is in the sketch plan review. You need
But
to have a
this is-
traffic study is one of the things we can say, and I think we do not need to say that in this case.
Yeah. no,
I think we're on the same page. Anyone else with thoughts, comments?
This is similar to the one we just saw where there's just a subdivision and it's hard to rule on anything when there's no proposed development of any kind, so.
Do you have a sense of any additional information that they might like to see when they come back for the final subdivision? If there's additional information that anybody does want to see?
I have a question.
Okay.
What's a recreational easement?
It allows the condo association to have access to the green for a variety of whatever they might want to do. The new school is part of that condo association, and for them, the school having access to the green for their students. Sometimes they play games on the green.
Got it, got it.
Yeah.
Does it absolutely prohibit development of the parcel?
No, the recreation easement just entitles them access to a percentage of the green, that it remain green space so they can use it for recreational purposes.
Does that help, Alex?
I mean, I guess, it's like it's on this process that, we've done applications before where we've essentially allowed the subdivision of a parcel that will never be developed, like if we were to look forward and say that, this was only, the use of this parcel was only going to be for, recreation use or, a park or whatnot. that like very much, narrows the review at subdivision, like we can absolutely discount like any parking analysis or traffic
Right.
analysis or utilities, and all of, all of that. I guess even though that is maybe that's the current conditions of what's going on, I'm just sort of like envisioning the approval list of the subdivision if we're not specifying that it's going to be that as a condition of the permit or by the type of subdivision that's being applied for. Although it may seem duplicative, our review might be a bit different.
I guess I don't understand how we would specify that.
Well,
In terms of making it part of a subdivision, you're talking about a major, a conservation easement or you're turning over to public works or, there's a bunch of different options and those are big things and need big discussions and big decisions. And that is not in the subdivision of these two properties. I don't think I feel very uncomfortable with conditioning it in this one.
This is also just sketch plan, so like
Okay.
talking about conditions is, it's before. I'm just I think talking about going to subdivision, the level of review
Right.
that comes to looking at community infrastructure to be sort of carving off a lot that's got public streets on all sides, and through the, if you were just be one lot, say like, right now you can put 4 units on one lot, in Montpelier without any, extra permits, just like envisioning that like by approving a subdivision, we are allowing that.
Well, wouldn't it be
Right.
Bob, that they could also go and just put 4 units on it right now?
No, and that's sure. Yes.
So, I just don't see what where you're thinking about.
I'm not saying that there's any, I think, issue. I think that when it comes to, I think looking at, traffic, transportation, the impact on community facilities, like approving that this isn't a small subdivision. It's a lot of land in a very, sort of, populous neighborhood. And that, our review would be different after sketch plan if the use were specified versus if the use were not, we're not specified at the time of subdivision through the application.
But doesn't that, again, greenways, it literally is like the whole thing goes from VCFA to Greenway.
Sure.
Greenway is part of the condo association that has that recreation easement. Like they have no plans to do anything different than what it currently is. Let's fast forward 5 years from now, maybe they have a different idea. They would have to come back and with all of that information, if they wanted to subdivide and traffic study and all of at that point, I believe, but maybe I'm misunderstanding what it is that.
But I think you're exactly right, and this is where it's like a gray area in our realizations. Like we're asked to ask these questions at the time of subdivision, and that's like always the answer. And that like yes, like what ultimately comes to being built later, it's like they then another process commences.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I think of I don't know, like. Right now it could happen, and with subdivision, it could happen. But yeah, you could put a single family home on like all 4 corners of the of the green, right now. I don't know. I'm just kind of sparking the conversation about the level of review that we're gonna like take during final application, because it's just to get just sketch plan and I don't know.
It's asking us to take a lot on faith, right?
Sure.
And it may be that at this point there's good faith, but that land has changed hands with surprises and not surprises so many times in the last 40 years or 50 years, right?
Mhm.
Whoever would have thought that the buildings would have been sold off the way they've been sold off, that, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So to think that there might be one side of that land, that Greenway might decide that their interests would be better served by lining up, you know, 4 nice neo-Victorian mansions on West Street, right? And keeping the rest for, I mean, there are vested interests that would protest that. But it's still strange to, I mean, it's a subdivision that's for the convenience of a financial transaction. And that's its only reason, right? But it leaves open the potential for developing the parcel.
That,
But
correct
that,
me-
wouldn't that potential be there regardless of the subdivision?
yes. I mean, I believe that that could happen now without the subdivision going on. Isn't
Right.
that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. For the most part, I mean, there are gonna be obviously certain rules and design rules and those pieces that would come into play, but for
I
the
mean-
most part, yes.
In some ways, does it almost constrict it some by turning it into 2 parcels? If you left it just as one, I'm trying to think about the math involved with the coverage and.
Well, it's by percentages, so by making it basically all green, you could in theory have a higher
A higher
percentage,
okay.
but I'd actually have to run the numbers to see if like the building could be bigger, because there's some green space in the other parcel as well, so.
And
Um,
having to still keep whatever the recreation easement
Right.
requires of it open as well.
But I think it's important to evaluate the scope of what each of these meetings is for. The sketch plan meeting, in my opinion, is for the applicant to ask any questions and for
Sure.
us to give them information.
Yeah.
And then the final, you know, subdivision meeting is to just see if it's physically possible to subdivide. Like
Right.
the last one, do you have access to the road, utilities, all that? Is there enough room to build a building? That's all we're worried about in that second meeting. It's the only thing, really.
Yeah.
So then it would be after that, when there's a major site plan, you know, a plan in place, that you would go over all these questions and.
Yep.
You know, city government is relatively big machine, and this is just one little screw we're dealing with right
Yep.
now. So yes, we do have to take something on faith that further down the road, the people in charge then, whether it's us or someone else, will do what they're supposed to do.
And, you know, I mean, it certainly, it doesn't hurt to walk away from this meeting knowing that a conservation easement would make everyone's heart sing, you know, I mean, so that's also a factor too, you know, but I can't see, you know.
Yep.
Putting any more emphasis on it than, geez, that'd be nice, you know, I mean, it's really up to what the property owner wants to do.
But hopefully it's informative that, for the point that you're at in the process, that these questions were raised by the board as you think about. The future path that, you know, what you'd be putting together for the next proposal, so.
More questions?
Is there something specific that the board would be looking for in the final? That felt like a fairly open-ended, and I just didn't know if there was something specific.
Oh, I think Rob touched on it. It's interesting to have these two, the 2 site divisions adjacent to each other today, where really all we were thinking about in that first one was the potential for 1 versus 4 units.
Right.
Versus here, it's a larger site, a site that has a lot of significance to the community as a, you know, gathering space and everything else.
Right.
So, so I think it's like Alex's point that a lot of here is on, a lot of the statement right now is on good faith. So what else, what else would you
Right.
be able to?
I mean, it's the same,
Prepare.
it's basically the same regulations that we're looking at in each
Yes.
case, you know, so the amount of input we have into what they do with this
Yeah,
subdivision
it's a property owner.
is
yeah.
next time round, not this time. I didn't think there was anything specific that we needed that I saw in here or that I felt like we needed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, you know, the simple substantive stuff is the, you know, the final survey and the full, you know, essentially almost stamp plat with monuments in the ground at the time of subdivision is the next step. But I don't see anything structural around the application. No, I think it's fine as it is. Yeah.
Great. Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay,
They're members of the public. I don't know if folks were here to
Oh.
speak on it.
thanks. Come right up. Just give your name and address if you would.
Hi, my name is Kristen Cantu and I'm with Greenway. We're at 39 College Street here in Montpelier. First, I just want to say we're really thankful that BCFA has come up with this creative and, as Katie said, elegant solution to helping us purchase College Hall and the green. We have no development plans for the green space. You know, also as a neighbor to the green, I live at 4 Foster Street. This part of the community is really important to us and we are really invested in it. And we want to be in conversation with the community throughout this purchase, throughout, you know, our growth, you know, as an organization here in Montpelier. We're really invested and you want to keep the green space as it is. It is a really valuable and lively and fun place to be in the community. We love seeing people out there every day using it like a public park. And we would be really sad to see it go in a different direction and have zero plans for that at all. So I know going on faith here, but I would just say, please reach out to us. Please reach out to me. If there's anyone in the community that has any concerns, we see the green as a valuable resource for the current community, for our eventual students that will come and will, you know, enjoy using that space as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Think you're all set, Katie?
Yeah, no voting tonight.
Right, sketch plan. We like it. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just mention just about the subdivision regulations, some of the things like traffic and the parcels and those pieces. They are many times geared towards things bigger than a 2-lot subdivision. That's why it kind of feels, how do we apply it to this? Well, it makes a difference if you had, say, building in a new road off Town Hill.
Sure.
That was going to have 18 lots that's going to then dump onto Town Hill. Now we can talk about traffic because you know there's going to be at least 18 single family homes. Maybe there's 36,
Right,
maybe there's
some limit.
50.
There's a
We may have to put a limit to go through and say this can get subdivided, but the subdivision can't create more than 27 units because that's the limit we're going to put on it. You know, and however you guys want to, you, the developer, want to sort that out in single family homes and duplexes, you can do that, but you can't have this many more units because, so that's what, when sometimes you look at these as design configuration traffic, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. That's why these rules are there. They're for the bigger subdivisions that frankly we never see, but in the event we do see one, we need to have the rules. So
Isabel Circle.
Isabel, yeah, Isabel.
We've been through those. All right, I believe you're ready for 8 Richardson Street. Neil Dunlop. Thanks for your patience as we worked our way through all our applications tonight. Can you, this is a request for exemption to minimum spacing for a widened curb cut. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You wanna, just kind of, oh yeah, I got to swear you in. That's right. Can you raise your right hand? You solemnly swear to tell the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Great. And if anybody else is going to speak on this, I would also need to swear you in at that point. So, perfect.
Just life.
All right. Not a common phrase. So yeah, tell me about your driveway.
Really, it's about the street being so steep and the inability to park on the street, really. The driveway is 5 feet too narrow to accommodate 2 cars side by side. And we've got 2 daughters living with us. One is attending UVM and will need to be driving. And especially in the winter, that road gets plowed. And I think you probably know Richardson's very steep. So we can't really have cars on the street at all. So that was the reason for the application.
I am not actually familiar where Richardson Street is.
I know where it is. It's in my neighborhood. Actually, I know the house. It is a very steep street.
Yeah.
And just in case you have more visitors than your new parking, assuming we approve of it, enables, there's a large parking lot down on Terrace Street just below you
Yes, we thought
that
of
you
that.
might be able to negotiate.
We'll have to
And there's a
tell
lot of
people.
NGOs that have parking lots that they don't use at night.
Uh-huh.
There's so much excess parking in that little neck of the woods.
Yeah,
You'd have to be in pretty good shape to make it up from there.
Yes.
no, I think so.
Yeah,
Okay,
Chapman and Terrace, that's where the parking lot is.
I'm familiar with the one you're talking about.
all right, so let's look at this application. This, so my understanding is that the regulations currently run, it's 65 feet. Have I got that right?
It's already non-conforming.
It is. I do realize that. I guess for me, the big part of the application was that the Department of Public Works didn't have any problem with it. And they sort of seem like the driveway guys to me. Um, they do all those things. They know how things are working up there. So the existing curb cut is 60 feet from the intersection of Richardson Street and Chapman Road. The proposal would reduce that to 55 feet. Okay. Corey Line has given DPW support to the widened driveway with the caveat that final design details for compliance with other Vermont Transit Design standards for residential driveways will need to be confirmed before DPW will issue a construction access permit, right? And you're familiar with that? Okay.
Current nonconformity is it's too close to the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's the name of that street? I can't remember.
And
Chapman.
Chapman.
Yes. Yeah, that's where it slopes most aggressively. I think it's 60 feet now. There really isn't a curb cut either. There is at the top, but it just, there's no real curb cut.
So what's your plan for widening? Like, can you walk us through that process?
Well, I think there's a photo there that shows some aggregate, some stone.
Yep.
That's being there to support the culvert, it's not a culvert, the ditch.
Yep.
It's really just putting hard material on top of that
Oh,
and widening it, that part by about 2 or 3 feet.
so the grading's already done. It's
Pretty
just a
much.
matter of surfacing that's there.
Yeah.
Got it.
There's no curve that needs to be cut, really.
There's no curb up there, is there?
Nope.
The distance is still holds, but
so you currently could be, it looks like a Bronco, yeah.
Yeah,
Looks like you could park there right now.
I could,
Anyway.
but yeah.
So this is kind of just formalizing something that basically already exists.
Yeah,
lot of
I mean,
ways.
we would widen it a little bit to make it easier to put 2 cars side by side.
And cover it with macadam or something, right?
Yes, exactly. So. it could
So
be-
we're back to pervious surfaces.
Mhm.
Now Sharon, we deal with a bit of these driveway things. I think in line with maybe what Mike was alluding to, a lot of this also comes from new subdivision standards.
right.
And whatnot, and like not necessarily specific to the
Single.
configuration of existing driveways on Montpelier streets.
Right.
So that's kind of where I read it, and it's unfortunate that, we're not able to get super creative and write that into the administrative rules, but you can't do that for everything. That takes a lot of work. So here we are.
Right. Looking at something that it's pretty straightforward. And that's why it's, because it applies to larger applications is why it is here at the
Yeah.
Development Review Board, there.
Sure.
Because if it was Isabel Circle coming in asking about curb cuts and stuff, that's a lot different than you coming in to widen your driveway by 5 feet.
I think the most important thing is drainage and steep slopes that Public Works has weighed in, and that they will continue to be involved as the specifications of how you're doing it. And so I don't know that the expertise of the board is all that relevant beyond this point.
Does anybody have any questions?
No.
The applicant have
Right
any
over
questions?
here.
So it looks fine to me.
I'll motion to grant the request for widening the existing curb cut by 5 feet as presented in the application Z 2024-0077 and supporting and supplemental materials. And no further, well, yes, one condition. Construction of the driveway changes shall not commence until the applicant has obtained the relevant construction access permit from the Department of Public Works.
I will second the
Second.
motion. Oh, I'll give it to Alex.
Okay, roll call. Rob?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Catherine? Yes. Alex?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you. Good luck.
So much recycling. All right, so we have to approve the minutes from the July. Where is it?
That's a good thing that quorum tonight because we have an election.
Oh, that's right, we have elections. Okay. Well, I would like to nominate Rob for vice chair.
I accept such nomination. Gladly.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody want to be chair?
I would nominate
I
Sharon
was
for chair.
Challenge you for chair? Definitely.
I accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. That's that. Here for another year. Our next meeting is a Tuesday. Do you remember that? It's September 3rd. We do need to also do the last minutes, which were from the 1st of July. I was not here, but yeah, it's a really long time ago. We didn't
So-
meet on the 19th of July, did we?
No, that was the last
And
meeting,
the
July
first one of
1st.
August was scheduled not.
Yeah.
So that's been the last meeting. Wow.
Yes, was the Agway, just one application, the Agway application on the 1st.
Oh, right.
Oh, I'm looking for that at all. Have people had a chance to review the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as drafted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. That is that. Is there other business we should talk about?
I just want to go on record as having considered asking him to do pervious materials on that Richardson driveway and deciding we didn't need to add to our time.
Okay, Alex, that's good to know. All right. Well, thanks for helping out tonight, Mike. Yeah. And I think I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Done.
That's a motion? I think you have to
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to it.
All right, you make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great night, everybody.